Ciencia.
I don't think that's a relevant question.
Perfect.
I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed that new intro to the show. I had a lot of fun making it, and I think it'll be a good fit for the direction this show's headed. In light of that, it's May time, baby. The last time I saw you, I was getting ready for finals. It was the end of April. It was a holiday month. It was a great time, but man, quarantine doesn't seem to let up. But here we are, 2-3 episodes later, and you can take that lockdown and shove it where the sun don't shine. I finally got someone in the studio. We are here in person, no masks. Cough on me all you want, baby, and I don't care. We are here. Now, without further ado, getting excited for a fully packed podcast for you today. I have a ton of stuff for us to hit. I'm really excited, but without further ado, I'd like to introduce a great friend of mine. He was somebody that I got the pleasure of meeting throughout this crazy journey in law school. He was one of my great friends getting me through this. He is a veteran for the Navy, and he works for the IRS. I'd like to introduce Adam Eltresh, my good friend. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you, man?
I'm extremely excited to have you here. This is going to be a great time. Me and Adam, this has been a long time coming. It's crazy to think this started all the way at the beginning. This podcast journey started a long time ago, way back in the day, at the beginning of our law school career, and here we are. And I'm ready to. We finally got one of the golden gooses in here, and I think we're gonna have a great conversation for you. So, Adam, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm great. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to be here. So, something we've been talking about for like 2 years now.
Way too long.
2 years.
I feel bad for Adam because too many times this weekend we've been catching up. It's been too long, and the amount of times I'd shut him down and be like, "No, dude, save it for the podcast." If he asks me a question, I'd be like, "No, I don't even want to talk about it until the podcast." So Here we are, a lot to cover, but okay. I think the theme of this podcast I'm calling Journalistic Malpractice. I personally want to present a case that right now we have medical malpractice, legal malpractice, but there's nothing concerning journalistic malpractice. So constitutionally, yes, we have the freedom of press, and the government may not interfere with the press without a very good cause. The freedom of press limits the federal and state governments from unjustified prior restraint of the press and restricts the regulation and litigation that would interfere with the operation of the press. Now, the abuse of that right is punished criminally by indictment or civilly by action. So here's the thing here, guys. When it comes to legally, the consequences you truly have against a journalistic press really is only things such as libel, where they slander a specific journal or a specific individual. I want to present a case that we as a populace have a legal and constitutional right to hold these journalists accountable in severe cases of we could use a strict scrutiny standard, whatever it is, but in just complete disregard, straight line with severe consequences. I think I want to emphasize throughout this episode that there are severe consequences coming from the lies of the media. So in that, you need to have a mask, and you better stay home, We're going to ruin the economy, and all these healthy, fit Americans, we're going to ruin their lives too, all for the sake of a germ or a bug. In this position on the podcast, we're going to at least present the case that this is all media manipulation. It isn't fair. It's definitely having severe consequences. And in light of that, so Adam, I got some things to present to you. Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on them, and I think we could wrestle with where we're at right now. First things first, Adam is a huge. You're huge into fitness. You're a huge athletic guy. I want to get your thoughts on. So I thought the last thing that was going to open would be gyms.
Right.
But it seems that gyms are preparing to open back up. one of the things here, so here's a picture. Adam, what do you think of gyms that they could be returned sooner than expected, but they're going to look like this? I guess that alone doesn't seem too intimidating. It doesn't seem like the biggest change.
Right.
However, that's just one step. Where do we go from here? Soon we're going to be living in little cells and boxes and totally away from each other.
You might as well be at home.
Exactly.
Right? So,
for me, I think the biggest issue I've kind of wrestled with throughout this quarantine has been, I'm a friendly guy. I don't know if it's my face and people just are too keen to strike up a conversation with me, or I don't know what. But I don't know why it's not bugging you people that we're losing our humanity and civility when a stranger smiles at you. Am I the only one that's standing out to me that when I go to smile back, I'm like, they can't even see me. We're slowly losing our humanity. So again, this isn't a big deal, but this is the first step of where we're headed. Now, taking it a step further, what do we think now when police are creating bots like this? Here's a police robot that told a woman to go away after she tried to report a crime, and as she wouldn't leave, it started just singing a song. Now, this is going to be this seems crazy to me, man.
Yeah.
This is like a Black Mirror episode. Are we going to let little orbs or, robot cubes be judge, jury, and executioner? This is going to be the new Judge Dredd coming our way.
Right. I highly doubt that that's going to be as effective as they think.
I don't think people will accept it.
I mean, they're not only they're not going to accept it, but at the same time, I think that people there's a population that just has like an inability to take police seriously.
Right.
And so when you add an element of like a non-human, right? I mean, I just don't think that's a recipe for success. I think that
no, dude, I completely agree.
We need to review that.
Things are getting scary. Things are getting creepy fast.
Yeah.
What's extremely interesting is throughout the quarantine, throughout this kind of whole experience, we have been talking a lot about, guys, we got to keep an eye open to the government seizes tragedy and horrific situations like this to implement policies that take away your liberties to fight a threat. Right. But when the threat leaves, those policies are still in place. And we're starting to see it further increase. Look at this meme. I think it's perfect. And this is going to kick off the tone of the podcast. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the think tank. The thought police says that you're not allowed to speak out or question anything. So moving forward, I'm just saying, Adam, while we're all trying to open back up and everything, here's a quick video of Darth Vader preparing his stormtroopers. So while no one else is allowed to work, and while they've got all these liberals out here fighting to keep you caged in your bedroom, here's Darth Vader himself preparing his Amazon boxes. And again, those the plastic like sheets in front of the cat, all of it's so phony. It's like airport security. It gives you the illusion of security and safety, and yet it does absolutely nothing. Right. But I think it's so hilarious. You, the mom and pop shop, the restaurant, the sporting goods store in some local town, heaven forbid you work. You are going to spread this Chinese virus and kill the American people. However, the richest man in the world, ain't nobody stopping him. You can bet your sweet candy ass he'll get you your Amazon package tomorrow. So I think it's ridiculous, man.
Business as usual.
Business as usual with this guy. Right. Not a thing has changed. Did he look uncomfortable to you going through his employees? Just Did you like the procedures with the heat cannons? The temperature gauges and everything to make sure safety and. I mean, It's wild. It's a wild situation. What are your
Interesting
thoughts?
situation. I think it's an interesting situation. It's like I wouldn't say very very surprising to me, right? And I think to a lot of people,
Is it though? What's
as far
surprising
as-
about it?
There's nothing surprising about it at all. I think that the fact that it's business as usual, right? Like it's
Right.
Bezos doing what he does. So many folks are out of jobs, right? Small businesses, but it just seems to me that there's some interesting precautions being set in place.
Again, look at the disillusion that's created. You have I had this girl who, was so adamant messaging me, oh my God, we have to stay closed. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. She couldn't be more adamant about it. Next day, I see on her Snapchat, her and her family have rented a pontoon, and they had about 25 people on a pontoon for their family reunion. So the same girl that's telling the mom and pop shop, you better close up, baby cakes, you're going to ruin the country, is the same one that's holding a family reunion, but she's still thinking she's on like, the double standard is incredible. So same thing with Jeff Bezos. It's like, it doesn't surprise me at all that there's this double standard. The richest man in the world gets to carry on with business as usual, but these local businesses have to struggle with protests telling them to go home and actual governments. Look at what's going on in California. What's going on in California is like Nazi land. But again, the forefathers all saw this coming. This is the beauty of states' rights. This is the beauty of states' rights. Right. You have the ability to govern yourself. Notice the president comes on. We've all been tuning in on the president's briefings. What happens? The president brings in Fauci and the other Nazi team, and they come in and give their breakdown on the biology of it all. The president does his best to give suggestions, but at the end of the day, as that president emphasizes the entire time, it still comes down to your governor, your state. And the beauty of this whole thing is, if you don't like where you're at, you don't like how your locality's run, you could go to somewhere else where it's better ran.
Better suits you.
So we will show soon here the dichotomy between what's going on in Texas, what's going on in Chicago, and then even furthermore, I've got some fresh data from Georgia, I think it is. Georgia, Atlanta, I'll tell you here in a second. Georgia, because Georgia has been open for weeks. So we'll get to that here in a second. But I just want to point out that the beauty here is the state locality, and what we're seeing is just drastically different approaches to this, and the disillusion being created in our head is that, oh my God, the backlash, we're going to see a spike. That we've been seeing the numbers go down, but once we open up, you fools, you Republican fools, you're going to see it thrown back in your face. So I guess this is a perfect opportunity to introduce the Georgia figure. Adam, take a look at these two graphs here. These two graphs are the COVID cases over the period since March. And if you see, even though Georgia has been open for over 3 weeks now, there is still the decline. It has not, the curve itself has not changed at all. We are still on a drastic decline, and again, who's going to address the logic there? But again, this is why we're going to bring up journalistic malpractice, because instead of either giving us this information or trying to combat this information with the disillusion they're peddling, we get straight lies, straight falsehoods. A perfect example of this is, okay, so here is a video from Texas. This is a doctor in Texas. I'm only going to give a snippet here. It's an 11-minute video. If you wanted to see the whole video, you could go to Dr. Yvette Lozano. Her Instagram, it's an 11-minute video, but this is her speaking in front of some citizens in Texas, and I'll address why we're putting this in after. So we'll give our remarks following it.
But most importantly, these patients present in panic. They are afraid. They are anxious. They're actually afraid to get diagnosed. They have been staying at home for days and not coming into the office. Why is that? Well, that's real simple. When they go to the emergency room, they're turned away. If they have a fever, they're sent home and told to quarantine to save the rest of society. During those many precious days when they're sent away and sent home, they infect their family members. And so a lot of my patients are in groups of families, okay? This is not just happening in the emergency rooms. This is happening in doctors' clinics. These doctors that are not opening their practice, that are all of a sudden implementing telemedicine. Let me tell you something. From a physician that's been practicing for 29 years, I can't examine you through a computer screen. We can't Facebook or FaceTime for me to see what's wrong with you. I have to touch you. It's called a physical exam. And this is what I went to medical school, to provide care in the midst of a pandemic, not to hide in my fancy home with my fancy cars and my family. Okay, now, let's go a little step further. Let's talk about treatment, okay? You would think that I would get some kind of guidance from the American Medical Association, the Texas Medical Association, the Dallas County Medical Association. Well, I was on a live telecast, and here's what I heard from the Texas Medical Association. We need to increase visas to bring in foreign medical doctors to help us take care of COVID patients. Really? Are you kidding me? Now, the things that I tell you are personal experience. I was on that call. Needless to say, that was my last call, right? Okay, so where and how did I learn how to treat COVID patients? Well, I'm going to tell you. I learned it from the President of the United States, Donald Trump. So, when this pandemic started, President Trump was giving daily interviews to the media. And he came across, because you realize as President of the United States, he's dealing with heads of states of other countries. And he came across a treatment protocol that had been successful in France. Yes, one doctor had treated 29 patients and every single patient had survived. And every single patient had improved. And President Trump thought that that was newsworthy. God forbid he share that with doctors. We didn't receive any advance from the local medical agencies that we all pony up our money to belong to and become members of. So I wrote these things down. I wrote these medications down. And I waited and waited for my COVID patients that just didn't come in. Because you see, they were going to hospitals and emergency rooms, and they were going to employee clinics looking for treatment, and they were being sent home and told to quarantine for 14 days. Don't come out. Protect the community. Well, what about them? What about their health? So they started slipping through the cracks and calling me. Are you open? Hell yes. Can I come in? Absolutely. That's what I make the big bucks on. And as they came in, I implemented the only thing that I had heard that had worked in other countries, countries that had been inflicted with this virus before we even knew its name. And so I wrote a prescription, and I sent them home. And I added a little bit to the protocol that President Trump gave, as I'm a physician, and it's called the practice of medicine. So I gave them a couple of shots, yes, antibiotic shots in the butt. Not one single one denied them. And guess what I found? To my surprise, the very next day, they were all amazingly better. I was actually surprised. Within 24 hours, the patient was completely symptom-free. And here's the take-home message for all of you. It's called hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine. It costs $13. $13. It's been on the market for 60 years. It is the candy for lupus. It is considered a vitamin for arthritis patients. And for some reason, those bureaucrats that are standing next to our president that think that they know more about medicine than I do are telling me I can't use it. In fact, not only are they telling me I can't use it, in 2 states it's completely illegal to prescribe this, right? Most of my colleagues are afraid to use it because the agencies that they work for have told them that the risk is too high. Liability, it hasn't been FDA approved. Well, FDA can approve you know what on my behind.
All right, so that's, the key takeaway here is, 98% of people, and I was able to confirm this figure, you can find it in the description, 98% of people that have been cured of this disease were cured with no medicine. They just were cured, naturally fighting it. That's a key point that you never hear about. But I think the more important thing, before we get into discussion of kind of the meat of what she was talking about, I flagged this this video because, guys, it should compel us. It should flag the audience. It should start standing out to us as citizens. Once the media is no longer useful and it is taking doctors, the people on the ground, to take it upon themselves to stand on their soapbox, go in the middle of the Times Square and get the people's attention, because that's the best we can do to mobilize and get true, real information out. And again, yes, she brings up Trump. I'm sure there's a bit of a bias here. We're in Texas. But also, she brings up some very important points. So before I really dive into the meat of it, Adam, you seeing this for the first time, what are some of your thoughts on what she was talking about?
So why would it be, I mean, I think number one, how is it conducive to safety to ask for more doctors with foreign visas? Like, how is that conducive to...
That's just an agenda being pushed.
How does that have anything to do with...
But again, I think they put those little things in there to distract us. Because now we're talking... Now the other side gets to go, you're just racist and xenophobic and don't want foreigners. It's like, no. You're distracting us from the point now. It's Again, we have this conversation all the time. I tell you, they play word games because they don't want you to actually talk about the facts of the matter. They know they lose there. Sure. So they distract you with, no, I don't want you to talk about... the problem with doctors, the dichotomy between the pharmaceutical, the government, and the doctors. No. Don't have any discussions about that. Talk about
let's have a smoke screen.
Yes,
let's have a smoke screen, right?
Boom.
Something that's not right. So, and another question is like, so why would it be illegal to prescribe something that I get liability and risk, but if there's proven results. Right,
so,
in a particular area, and the constituents approve?
The answer to that I was actually able to get from my sister. She just finished she's done with pharmacy school. She just has some, I don't even know, clinics. I don't know what they're really called. She has to sit in. But she's done with pharmacy school. Mm-hmm. So I actually sent this to my sister. One of the things that I learned through my sister is that the FDA is not allowing them to prescribe hydroxychloroquine for COVID. One, because the FDA, our medicine industry, has the highest standard for medicine. So while other countries like Italy and other countries that have really good medicine programs, they don't have as high as standards. They're willing to try newer things in hopes of it working, whereas we don't. We have a higher standard because we don't want to take risks of losing lives. So that's a problem. Also, it takes like X amount of years that they have to do this study before the FDA will approve it. So they just haven't approved it yet for this specific thing. And then the third thing my sister said was that this hydroxychloroquine in the United States, so as we all know, in other places like Africa, South America, it's a very common use. As the doctor herself noted, it's been around for 60 years to fight malaria and other things. But in America, it isn't a very common drug used here, so we don't have as much of it as these other places. And furthermore, it's used for arthritis and lupus. And with those two things, those are, diagnoses that make them more susceptible to COVID. So it makes the FDA is worried that if we give everybody with COVID this drug, these people who need it regularly won't be able to get it, and then they'll be even more susceptible to COVID. So I see that. Right. The other side to this whole thing that, my sister kind of tiptoes around because I think they've got it. They've built a perfect program. You have pharmacists that see this problem. Okay, before I even get to the problem, my problem with the FDA is that this is an agency. I've articulated it on the podcast before. Agencies get to run rogue with no policing. We vote for congresspersons. Right. We don't vote for agencies. The congresspersons implement the agencies, hire those that fulfill the agency, and they get to create law and policy outside the system of checks and balances. And if we wanted to go through an appeal process to fight any laws or policies that this entity outside the checks and balances created, we have to go to an internal agency court run by an agent judge. So you would go to an FDA-run court with an FDA agent judge. AKA, you're never winning an appeal in an agency, so it should just, again, Madison, they always say a Madisonian will tell you that this is totally outside of our Constitution. Right. I don't know, they just snuck this in, and it's been around for hundreds of years, so we'll never stop them, but these are entities that get to create law, and we can't really stop them. That all being said, back to my conversation with my sister, it's funny that it seems like, like everything, they've created a perfect triangular dilemma. If you want to talk about opioids, whatever it is, the pharmacists get to go, no, that's not us. That's the pharmaceutical reps, the sale reps. That's not us. That push, But then when situations like this occur where they're barred from being able to give a medication or anything else, then they go, well, that's not us. That's the FDA. So the people that are the most qualified to determine if you're eligible or not, to gauge how much, how little, if this is appropriate or not, they get to wipe their hands of it. But that's not us. That's the FDA. That's not us. That's the sales rep. So that's a huge problem, and that's how this dilemma perpetuates itself. Right. But again, that's what takes, and here we are left watching the media lie to us, watch this whole thing become a circus, and then the only thing we're left to do is bundle up in a bedroom, throw a poster on the backboard and scream at a cell phone, or grab your microphone like this doctor did, go in the middle of the park and scream to whoever will hear, because again, we're being, isolated. So I don't know if does that well enough address your question about why it's illegal to prescribe it? Yeah, no, I definitely, I get the relationship, and but it doesn't necessarily, that's their answer, and that's like the narrative, right? But as far as getting real concrete answers as to why is it illegal, it's left an open-ended question, like that lady had left it, right? Right. There's no real answer for it. There's no American answer for it. Right. So taking it, okay, so now let's start bringing in my case against journalistic malpractice. And this case will be mainly focused on COVID, but I think over the course of at least 2020, but you could go over the past, 4 or 5 months, and we have clear additional cases, Flynn, Russiagate, all this stuff, but we're not going to go into it too much. But what I do want to address is the hydroxychloroquine. I don't know, are you familiar with the situation where there was a husband and a wife, and the husband died of taking hydroxychloroquine because they listened to the president, but they actually took chloroquine, which is a chlorine used to clean koi ponds, to kill the algae in koi ponds. Okay. So this woman, that's pretty specific, said she struggled, but she survived, and her husband died of the chloroquine, the koi pond bleach. Okay? Right. So the media has been running with this. The woman herself has said, "I'm this staunch Trump supporter. I listen to the president," and the media has been plastering this everywhere, it everywhere. She's a Trump supporter. She listened to the president, and it killed her husband. And if the president wasn't talking out of turn and pretended he didn't know things about things that he didn't, that pretended he knew things in concern to things that he could be clueless about, we'd be able to save more lives. Well, Steven Crowder took it upon himself, a name that we can't talk about, but I have in the description a video that I would love if you would take the time to watch, because I think it's extremely important and articulates what's going on right now. Steven Crowder takes it upon himself to find out this woman through his journalistic research, her name, because her name's been anonymous. He found out her identity and has done deep dives on this woman. So watch the video, and when you go through the video, you will see it goes through a timeline. The most important takeaway from this video is going to be how Steven Crowder finds out that, one, this woman was a Hillary supporter. She funded Hillary's campaign severely. She has posts all the time on her Facebook cussing out the president, and that she would do anything to take down and delegitimize the president. She talks about it on her Facebook all the time, so that's a severe lie. But then furthermore, this woman who's loved her husband, it has now come out that we probably got a Tiger King situation, and she's a Carol Baskin because it turns out she never had chloroquine, only her husband took it. She never was sick from chloroquine.
Okay.
She tried divorcing her husband 3 times prior to this situation, and they had a domestic violence dispute where he called the police on her just days before the situation. So there's a woman that was trying to divorce her husband. It just seems all too convenient.
Yeah, all information that wouldn't be pertinent in the official media report, right?
And then to further it all, to put a bow on it all, Steven Crowder is calling the ABC exclusive hotline that, you have to be in the journalist business to even get this number. And he calls them, all the phone conversations are in the video. And if you listen to the conversations, he's like, this is important information. I have a tip. It's about this woman, and he says her name. They beep it out. So he's like, this way, I know who I'm talking about. And the woman's like, okay, great. He presents everything to her, and he's like, do you not want to do anything with this? And the woman's like, no, I think, you know what, actually, you have all the information. You seem to be creating your own story. You should get your own, you should write it yourself. He's like, no, but I'm not, I don't have the audience you do. Don't you think you should correct the record? You don't feel obligated? And she just nipped it. And this is the woman that wrote the article that had pushed the narrative. The woman herself. He's talking to her. You don't feel obligated or compelled to correct the narrative? And no. And so watch this video. It goes through a more detailed synopsis of it. But again, here's a clear situation of a severe lie that has severe consequences, right?
Yeah, right?
We're telling people, these people who drank bleach actually took this medication that's been around for 60 years and has been a cure-all candy for all of Brazil and, South America.
But like, what does that have to do with the president? Like, if you're an adult human being, right? You're adult enough and coherent enough to purchase what kind of fish is that?
A koi pond.
A koi. Like, so you're I mean, like, that's so specific, right? Like, so you literally went to purchase a specific kind of fish.
It'd be interesting to see if they even have a koi pond, right? Like, what if they didn't even have a koi pond? I bet you they just looked for something that sounded like what the president was saying. Or she did have it. She did naturally have it in her garage.
Like, what was this guy's occupation, right? What's his IQ, right? Like,
he was an engineer. He was extremely intelligent. So they were saying, how does this wealthy engineer accidentally drink bleach, right? Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah,
so that was one situation.
I want to see that story if you got.
What's that?
If you have that particular one about them drinking the bleach.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's circulated everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I will definitely.
I mean, if that's really ammo, I feel like we should be talking about more important, sort of productive conversations. Right?
No, dude, I completely agree. The unfortunate thing, however, is this thing has become so agenda-driven. We fight under the guise of we care about saving American lives and curbing this detrimental, I don't know, what is he called? Invisible enemy. Mm-hmm. But yet the actual goal is totally disregarded, right? It seems like money, agenda, and war on information has taken priority over human lives tenfold.
Right. Smokescreen topics.
Topic. I mean, here, just an anecdotal thing. If you want to pause the screen and look at it and you could go through it. But here's a quick breakdown of the Democratic Party and the mainstream media. Here's somebody from the Obama administration married to somebody who runs ABC News. Obama administration married to somebody who runs CBS News. Or brothers with somebody. Go check out this list. You can run the names. This is just one little piece. And we've been talking about Project Mockingbird for a long time. How the CIA pretty much created a lot of the media outlets that we rely on today. Here's a clear and evident example of it. So, in contrast to this woman in Texas who is telling us that there were a couple other things. Do you have any other questions about her or comments?
About her? No. I feel like it's pretty clear what's going on there. Right? Like, it's pretty clear what's going on. So I think, that's not.
So wrapping up final thoughts on that conversation, she makes it clear to us that 98% of people are doing fine regardless of what's going on. Don't listen to what they're telling you.
Americans.
Americans. She's telling us that she is not being guided, and I guess she isn't properly being guided and informed by the authorities she relies on in this situation. Look at the World Health Organization. Another clear example. Yeah. They took the media as their mouthpiece and twisted the narrative, and we could go through the timeline of where the World Health Organization manipulated us, and then it comes out that they've just been fulfilling China's agenda, and that's why the president comes out and pulls funding. When you have America as the highest funder to the World Health Organization, then you have China as the second highest funder to the World Health Organization, and they've been lying for China. It's clear. They've been caught there. And then for the third highest funder to the World Health Organization to be the individual man himself, William McGates Billy,
your boy.
Chaboy, the vaccine king himself, that should throw a couple red flags, and I think that's why we had to put our foot down. Right. So here is the result, where we have this dichotomy going on. People are being compelled and have to take it upon themselves to push back and stand up for information, the freedom of medicine, the freedom of expression, the freedom of liberty, that I should be allowed to go out my house and not have to worry about getting arrested. Oh, shucks. But now let's take this party out of Texas, the good people of Texas, and let's send it to those crazy Satanists in Chicago. All right, this is the first video.
Crazy Satanists.
This is the Chicago, man, this is going to be a good montage of the Chicago mayor. She's a killer. And here's a video of the Chicago's mayor talking about the New World Order. She says it specifically. So for all of you people going, the crazy conspiracy kid, gah. She says it. She says it. Let it roll.
Branch, because otherwise it doesn't work. So you got to eliminate that compliance, and you make it a mandate, and then you do training, particularly in the city, I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly, and you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance, and then I think you have the Inspector General do some spot audits to make sure that.
So, let's let this kid give you my thoughts perfectly.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh shit.
Listen, when you have the mayor of Chicago going, yeah, we need to go into all these local agencies, the housing department, all these local municipalities, and put in the people that are willing to comply and carry out the New World Order, sirens should be going off.
Choice of words.
Interesting
choice of words.
And furthermore, Adam, I got one last video for you with the Chicago mayor. So again, cute choice of words, but you're probably going, what does that mean? Why should I be concerned? The New World Order, that sounds nice. What if we had all one world under one government? Sounds sweet and delightful. Well, this is what your New World Order sounds and looks like.
But when it comes to warm weather parties, Mayor Lightfoot was sounding anything but playful.
We're not playing games. We mean business, and we are going to shut this down one way or the other. The time for educating people into compliance is over. Don't be stupid.
You can't even move.
The mayor called a news conference today on the west side, where last week these viral images of an illegal party were seen around the world. So she wasn't pulling her rhetorical punches today.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you, and we will take you to jail.
And she says any owner of a rental property that ends up as the scene of an illegal house party will be banned from services like Airbnb for life.
All right, so let's just take all this real quick. You have one, policy, law, legality, enforced, making it illegal for you to have a house party. House party considered 5 or more people.
Right.
alarms. Wee woo, wee woo. Secondly, that we will actually cite you, arrest you, and take you out to jail. Gosh darn it, and we're being serious. And then furthermore, if you get caught doing this, or if you're a property owner and you're involved in this, somehow we will prevent you from being able to involve yourself with third-party independent corporations like Airbnb. How is that even legal? All of this, complete violations of civil liberties here, people. Wake up. Thoughts?
But I think at the same time, that's of that point, like easily defendable, right?
What is?
Like, okay, well, massive groups of people getting together, like at 5, right? 5 or more, because it's airborne, right? Like that's a decent counter argument. So that's not necessarily something that.
All right, so I want you to pose the argument. Convince me why I in my own house cannot have 4 other people over. Because also consider, if it's my house and I have my family of 4, I think they would be, again, they're the judge, jury, and executioner. Right. They're making the rules. I didn't get to vote for the rules. I didn't vote for the mayor.
Yeah, that's
I guess
interesting.
I technically
Why
did.
not 4, right? Why not 4?
No, I'm just saying, if I have a family of 4 and I have one more person over, explain to me why my civil liberties need to be taken away. Why I am banned for life from a third-party company. Why I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
Convince me.
That's an interesting point. No, I see what you're saying. Like, well, so if it's a family of 4 with someone over, not necessarily like a party, right? But that could be, I guess, grounds to sort of attack somebody on that. I could see that.
Bro, we had 5 people in here last night.
Yeah.
You, me, our friend, 2 girls, 5 people. You're going to jail. I'm never allowed to go to an Airbnb ever again. We're in jail.
That's not necessary. Yeah, that's...
Again, I also want to emphasize one other thing, Adam, and this is totally open, it's free, just fun conversation. But I've been mulling over all day how I would come out in a particular personal situation you're kind of wrestling with right now. You have a girl that you've really come close to, you're about to go on your first date with, you've gotten to know her, she reaches out to you and tells you that I am told to not go to work, and that I am at 99.9% or 99.9 degrees Fahrenheit for my temperature, and that I feel fine, but I'm getting tested tomorrow. Now you're wrestling with the dilemma, do I go on my first date tomorrow or not?
Right.
Again, audience, wrestle with that question. I've been wrestling with myself. Adam and I have come out 2 different ways on it, but the only reason I bring that up is, Adam, the mayor's going to tell you you're not allowed to go on your date, and soon enough you're going to get in trouble. So what I'm saying is, 1, you're around your parents all day, so there's 2 other people in the mix. You were around 5 people yesterday.
And they're high-risk population.
They are high-risk population.
So over 6,
4 people yesterday.
60 rather. Right.
And you're about to throw a possibly compromised and definitely a flagged individual into the mix, and yet you don't feel concerned that you may get sick. Now, you may get sick, and we know you're going to fight it off, no problem, because you're totally physically fit, you're healthy, it's not going to pose a true issue, but also, you're not cowering under your desk like we need to arrest all the people throwing a party.
Right. Yeah.
So again, it's supposed to be... There's supposed to be a balance. We're supposed to see a justification for the result based on the implementation of a specific policy or law. Right. So if they implement this, is it balanced? Is it justified, the result we're getting? So here's a law saying you're not allowed. These are our civil liberties. Over 50 men met together to recreate, or it was like 300 men, met in a congression to create a total new government.
Oh, right.
And they sat there and mulled this over for years while fighting the oppressor in the middle of war. And the thing they highlighted as the most important is the freedom of liberty, speech, press. These are the most pressing, the inalienable rights. Right. That means they are God-given, not state-given. They can't be taken away by the state.
By man.
You can't come up in a robotic egg and sing me a song and tell me to go home. No! And you sure as heck can't throw me in jail.
Yeah.
So, the dichotomy here between what's going on in Texas, what's going on in Chicago. Thank God we live in a state's country where we can leave and go to somewhere that best suits us.
Right.
But here it's funny, me and you get in trouble. We have to enter an establishment in Pennsylvania with a mask on. Liquor stores are closed. All these ridiculous rules. The grocery store, I am always cussing under my breath because it's like I'm playing Pac-Man, the way I'm weaving through the store just to get in and then weaving through just to get out. It's ridiculous. I'm playing Pac-Man. But in Ohio, my friend is walking around. Now, it was pretty funny. I get this Snapchat from my friend. He's walking through Target, and he doesn't have a mask on, and I'm looking at people in the background like, and they have masks on. So I immediately message him. I'm like, hey, man, is it not, like, enforced in Ohio? Do you not have to wear a mask? Here, it's strictly enforced. What's going on in Ohio? And he just starts chuckling. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I don't know. And based on all the looks I was getting, there's a good chance that we have to have our mask on, but nobody stopped me or said anything. So, there's that going on too. Right. It's different in different places. I think that's the beauty of what we're experiencing, but also it makes it easy for us to become polarized. This issue's become polarized, and as we're stuck in our echo chambers...
Literal echo chambers now, right?
Big literal echo chambers. Exactly. I think it only polarizes and makes the severity of the problem worse.
We're becoming more connected to technology, like physically and literally, right? I guess Sam Harris and the Elon Musk sort of saying that this AI is in the foreseeable future, right? And so that makes sense, right? We're always with our cell phone. It's always near us. We always have technology literally connected to us and becoming more like humanly disconnected.
Yes.
So
100%.
It's like unnecessarily stimulated all the time. From
right.
When you wake up, your caffeine in the morning, right? You're on your YouTube, you're on your whatever media, whatever you digest, whatever your echo chamber is, whatever makes you feel comfortable, whatever releases the endorphins, it gets you kind of like in that zone. And then you go to work where you may or may not be isolated, generally speaking, right? Whether you're a blue-collar worker, you're around folks that sort of generally sort of lean the same way politically. They might experience the same things economically, so that makes sense, right? You're from a particular area, you're a white-collar worker, you're even more isolated. You come home, everybody's tired. Nobody has time to do more research than what is required. Some of us do research as a career path. I mean, that's what you're doing, right?
Right.
So do you really want, like, you see what I'm saying? Aside from very select people that are interested in the truth, like yourself and a few others, no one's that. So
but see, that's the biggest problem.
That's the easy prey. That's why this.
But see, that's the point of this episode. That's the point of this podcast.
Right.
It's supposed to constantly remind you to care. The reason a lot of this is able to be carried out and they're able to accomplish and get away with these strict and blatant lies is because no one cares. Everybody keeps marching forward and allowing them to get away with it. Here's a perfect example. Again, supporting my case for journalistic malpractice. Here we go. CNN tagline: global death toll approaches 3 million. Death toll, 3 million.
That was real.
Look at right on the right side. Total cases is approaching 3 million. The deaths is only 206,000.
Wow.
Dude, that's a problem, right?
Now, did they retract that at all?
Oh, no.
Officially? No, ever.
No, that's the problem. Because okay, I heard this perfectly on a podcast, and I think it articulates metaphorically exactly the problem we face. The vast majority of Americans suffer from goldfish syndrome. They only see what's in front of them. The second it's gone, they're focused on the next thing, right? So when there's the Las Vegas shooting, the biggest mass shooting in America, and then there's videos of shots coming from different windows, people are saying that there were shots coming from the ground, sketchy shit's going on, oh, this guy was a part of the FBI, this, everybody's starting to wake up, starting to speculate, it's dead. Nobody's talking about it again. Wait, here's another tragedy. Oh, someone shot a gun at an elementary school, and then you're like, huh? And then you totally forget about the next thing, and then we're on to the next, and then, wait, but, Comey, okay, I see, no, Flynn, and everybody's just like, and then they forget about everything else, and the point of the podcast is to wake up and remember everything we've been talking about.
Right.
This has been almost an hour, we're getting going, and here's the case, guys. if you were paying attention and just kept a toll, we barely scratched the surface.
At all.
Start keeping score.
At all.
That's what this takes, right?
At all.
Start to care.
Yeah.
Because the change happens if all of us, 350 million people in this tribe, tomorrow just said, you know what? We're no longer we recreate racism, money, society, jobs, social and civil rules and norms. All of those are recreated daily. If we all, 350 million people in the tribe tomorrow woke up and said, nope, we're done. We're done listening to you. We're done giving value to some piece of paper. We're done having to go and be your pawn. And again, everything's measured in man hours. So a CEO is worth billions of dollars because he owns millions of man hours. He owns all these people and all their productivity. He owns these man hours. Right. Everything's measured in man hours. So the second we just stop going, we're no longer giving you our man hours. We're no longer giving you our attention. The president's up there bragging. I've got, since the COVID, I've had more viewership than all of the media combined. That should, wake up the media, that we are aware of your nonsense and we ain't taking it anymore. But furthermore, people are looking for something new.
Independent sources of media.
Boom.
Something that's more real, right? It's, I mean, even their tone, it just doesn't sound, it's like it's not necessarily organic. Right?
I agree.
Everybody has this sort of like broadcast, right? So you already know, right? Like, the direction it's going in. My bad. So you like, I mean, that sort of sets the tone for.
No, 100%.
Just the fabric of major media outlets.
Right.
Sort of like this agenda. It comes with the tagline agenda. Just the way they present themselves, the way they articulate things, the way they talk, right? It's very much so people are seeking independent sources, right? And then the president himself, whether you agree with him or not, right? And I don't necessarily agree with everything that anybody says, but that a sort of a great point as to why his Twitter is active as it is because it's independent source. It's straight from the president, and I think Americans are, people in general, but definitely Americans are like hungry for that. Like they're hungry for some genuine information. Right?
Well, I think they just are tired of being lied to. So I think you're 100% right. We have to do all this work. We're doing all the peddling. You have to sift through lies and truths and combat them against each other to see what comes out on the other end.
Right. With questionable information.
Exactly. And at the end, you're still questioning your legitimacy. That's why you're always in a pursuit to liberate yourself from your ignorance, because you never know what's truly ironclad and what's not.
Right.
But I think the real problem we're facing right now is that nobody stands for anything. I have a friend named Steve, and we've been so convinced and forced into fear. You've had a Facebook since you were 13. You've had parents and teachers and adults say, whatever you post on there is going to ruin your life. It's going to ruin your life. You're going to be dead forever. And so we've been, since we were 13, just, oh my God, I'm going to ruin my life. And all those pictures I posted with me and Granny are going to ruin me. Literally, my friend's Instagram has nothing on it besides him being a cheerleader and him with his mom or his grandma. But yet he's so fearful that the public guidance counselor position may be taken away from him because of his provocative Instagram with pictures of his grandma, that he changed his name to Stove. That's how they've disarmed us so completely with fear that nobody has the gall to stand for anything anymore. So all of our opinions are whatever you want them to be, baby. As long as I get to have a job and I get to take my luncheon and be your pawn, I will post whatever you want. Right. You want me with puppies? Puppies it is. Nobody stands for anything, and that's why they can tell us 3 million death toll, and we all go, whoa! And we just take it as it is, or when we see it, nothing comes of it. We don't need a retraction because, again, nobody cares. We're also crippled with fear that nobody wants to do anything or make note of it anyway. So I think that's our biggest problem. So moving on from that, still on the COVID topic, we do have this again, dichotomy between those that want to stay locked down and those that want to reopen the country. Yeah. Again, the biggest problem here is we have the vast majority of the people are healthy and able, functioning members of society, and yet we are crippling them with debt, ruining their families, or destroying their livelihoods because we are taking away their ability to fend for themselves. Yeah. The biggest problem is going to be when we cut all the work and the food runs out. Right now, if you stop the farmers from making the surplus we have is going to run out. Stop. And what are we going to do when you can't go to the groceries? Yeah, we make it cute. Again, here's a meme that I totally agree with, but it's been circulating around. At least we could say now, if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that actors, athletes, and celebrities are not essential. But again, when we have cute memes like that addressing the fact that grocery store workers are essential, notice what they're selling. Those workers, the lockdown pro people, are considering not essential. So at some point, those essential grocery store operators will have nothing to give you, and that's when real hell will break loose. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a common, especially here, right?
Not at all.
Not in the States. So, and that the quality of life Americans are not gonna stay quiet about. I mean, this. It's been like a little over 2 months, right?
Right.
People are losing it. I mean, and my small town, like sort of on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, every day, right? Everybody's like, man, like they can't imagine sort of a reality where they're not communicating, where they're not connecting, where they're not able to be genuine in some way, right? Because you're always suppressed in so many ways, whether in the workplace, whether with your social media, whether any sort of anytime you utter a word anywhere, right? It's just it's monitored in such a way that people need to connect, and this is if it's it's a bit of an experiment, but it's a bit of like a test of personal resolve at the same time, so. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see how long it goes. And
again, I totally agree. I think all of it is slowly taking away our humanity. We know, everybody knows, if you don't touch a baby, it will become a Jeffrey Dahmer. Like we are so civil or social that like it is actually just like water, breathing, and eating. It is a required element to the human existence, right? Or it will break your psyche, and we're losing that. On top of it, we're losing our humanity with these masks. As I said, why does it not bother you? You can't smile to strangers. And if that isn't important to you and you go, oh, come on, you sissy, that isn't important. Again, maybe I'm Bible thumping too much, but does that make you a good person? Like, what else are you on this earth for? Are you that so egoistic and autonomistic and I don't know, just putting yourself first, you're so individualistic that you've lost all sense of humanity? I don't know. But I think with Adam's great point he raises, I have this clip from The Fighter and the Kid, episode 562. They had Dave Rubin on, who was a liberal, was on the Young Turks, adamant. He's a homosexual, but yet he's still painted because now he's against their narrative or speaking against their narrative, and he was cut from the Young Turks. He's now this xenophobic, homophobic Nazi, even though he's gay and lives in a Jewish neighborhood. Regardless, let it roll.
A lot of people aren't going to fight because of unemployment. I have some friends who they're collecting unemployment and they don't have to go to work 9 to 5 and work 60-hour weeks, and they're sitting pretty. So like, fuck, we're good, man. We don't want to change.
But that's also the Peterson thing, and that's why you have to worry about authoritarian governments, because they'll give you just enough. We're entering idiocracy. That's what it is. They'll give us just enough to sit in cozy chairs and play video games and watch porn and blah, 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 so that our lives are just whittled. We're in basically half idiocracy, or not in it right now. We're veering towards half idiocracy, half WALL-E. Remember WALL-E? The Disney movie? Yeah. Like, that's where we're veering, where we're just going to sit in chairs, consume stuff all the time, and then there'll be this other set of people who are out there living their lives, but I have a feeling they're mostly going to live in Texas.
This whole world is changing so crazy. My son is obsessed with, the fuck is it? Fortnite, right?
Oh, yeah. Scott's character on there?
You got to get him off that thing.
My son,
you're going to lose him. You're going to lose him, man.
Do I already have? It's so bad. They broke his album where my son had to go into a land in Fortnite. You had to go into a land and into an area, and there was a stadium, and Travis Scott was there singing.
Yeah.
Huh? My son was like, "It's the coolest fucking thing." I'm like,
It's a big deal, yeah.
But okay, so
am I?
No,
okay.
whatever you're about to say. No, you're not crazy. You're not like, oh my God, this
so
is
crazy. Yeah.
Listen, we're in half. I'm going to give you 3 halves. That's how messed up this thing is. We're in half Idiocracy, half Wall-E, and half Matrix.
And a bad Black Mirror episode.
Oh well, the whole thing is Black Mirror for sure.
The most boringest episode of all time.
Which one?
Black Mirror.
The most boring episode?
Yeah, we're in a. If this is Black Mirror, this is a terrible episode.
Such a great show.
Black Mirror is the worst episode of Black Mirror. Is people just talking about Black Mirror.
That's what we're in right now.
That's funny. No, but we're in half that and then half the Matrix. Because if you remember the Matrix, the whole purpose beyond the red pill, blue pill thing that became the meme is that humans will just be the batteries for the digital world. So when you said your son does that, it's like if he starts spending more than 12 hours and 1 second on that game, which by the way, plenty of people do, then your organic body is just the battery for the digital world. That literally was the point. And then we can get into some simulation
Now
stuff.
we're in
and
simulation.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying.
I'm going to slip my wrist.
Yeah.
I know. Well, listen, Dave.
Is that how this ends?
All right, so I bring that up because Adam's big into video games. I'm big. I really got into video games only once I got into law school because there's a way to stay interconnected with all my friends back home while I'm isolated in this new place. But what did I learn? My friends are obsessed with Grand Theft Auto. They keep wanting to play it. My biggest problem with Grand Theft Auto is that it's turned into a legitimate job. You buy businesses and you literally run them like a job. You're spending all day working just to get money to do anything in that job. It is literally, and then you see little anecdotal ways that they just bleed you of your time. Right. Bleed you of your time. It's purposeful. Oh, no. You can't just click over here. You gotta go back, this way, that. It's all these small ways to just... And then after you spend 3 hours in a video game, which is not the longest you've spent on a video game, when you spend 3 hours... Well, I'm only talking about a video game.
Yeah.
But when you spend just 3 hours on a video game, you go, wow, I barely made a dent in what I'm trying to accomplish. Because look at what did we do today? We spent the day playing Madden. And it's got you working all day to barely scratch the surface. How many, you said you started in not too long ago.
Yeah. Like as soon as shutdown went down, I was like, I'm going to buy this new Madden, I'm going to try it out and kind of see what's going on.
But that's like a month. That's a month and a half.
Right, not even.
But think about how long a month how much a month of work you put into it, and you've still got a long way to go, and now they've got you hooked. Because when you get that little boost of endorphin, I got a little farther, and now I'm starting to see progression. I got to keep going. And at some point, just like Dave Rubin said, you're spending 8 hours a day being the organic battery to this digital world. Just like Brian Callen just said. You have me and my friends going out of their way to make a special date. All of us get on your computer, we're all going to Zoom each other, we're all going to get in front of the Xbox, and we're going to go do this Travis Scott concert. They also did another one like 2 weeks later or a week later with Steve Aoki and Deadmau5 and some other guy, and you literally, like Brian Callen was making a joke of, but you literally go to this digital world. It was a music festival, dude. It had the screen, it had a digital, it was an island, so they had places you could buy jump pads and all these things that you could play with. They had a racetrack, and it was like a music festival. It was a digital Lollapalooza that you went to, and here's a mass of like 50 people, strangers, like a concert, but here's what they're telling you. You'll never be able to go to a concert again. If it doesn't bug you that you're about to enter a beautiful, hot 2020 summer and you're not going to be able to go to a music festival or a concert around people, it should bother you. I don't know if you've had the pleasure, like I have, to watch UFC. There's been 3 great UFC fights this week. All of them feel weird. All of them are in an empty room with no one in it. It's definitely different. To the fighters, it seems like sparring. I guarantee the outcome of the fights come out completely different simply because they don't have the energy to feed off of.
Sure.
It's all
the crowd,
exactly
sort of what's going on.
But Dave Rubin, and I want to get your thoughts on this point, and this will be our last kind of topic, but here's Dave Rubin proposing the case that they're just like the Matrix proposed to us and warned us about. They are making us into the organic battery to a digital world. They keep telling us the iPhone is an extension of us. No. We're becoming an extension of the iPhone. When you have Elon Musk going on Joe Rogan for the second time ever, just recently, and he wasn't allowed to talk about it the first time he was on Joe Rogan, but he was allowed to talk about it the entire time, the second time, because his company finally announced it, but the whole conversation was on neurotech, where they will take the size of an Apple Watch, cut out the size of your skull, and put it in a computer, so that Elon Musk said within 5 to 10 years, 10 years being the absolute worst case scenario, within 10 years, there will be no more verbal human conversations. We will all be speaking telepathically through these machines. That may or may not be true. This is one of the richest, smartest people around, and whether or not it's true or not, if that doesn't scare you or alarm you, we're not living in the same reality. So, I want to get your thoughts. We played a lot of video games. We took a long time getting... I'm just laying out the truth and reality. It took a long time for us to get to this podcast.
Right, because we were just sort of...
But, again, it's not an all-the-time thing.
Right.
But that's how they entice you with endorphins, and then they got you locked.
Right. So it, like the initial concept of the game, right? So it's like a sort of humans getting together, right? So this concept evolved from like a board game, right? Where people would sort of get together. It was like a healthy release. It was like an exercise for your mind, which games has been proven to do, right? And that's great. Like within reason, but it's designed to sort of hold your attention. I think that's what all new media is. I mean, recently I just sort of fasted from social media, and I've done like a social media blackout where I've sort of just kind of taken a step away because I just personally feel it's definitely a toxic environment, and it's definitely sort of, there's like all these echo chambers, right? And so folks that you may have had a human connection with sort of forget that you're a human, right? Simply because you may not agree on a point, and you got sort of real life, real world conflicts going on over a thought you may have had, right? How many years ago? And then you're just sort of like, oh, okay, well, I was incorrect there, right? I've changed my thinking, and I apologize, and you sort of move forward. But today, everything is just it's out there, and it's sort of and it's under the microscope, and it's and our own information is being used, right? So you keep us sort of entertained, fed, distracted, and then where does our information go?
And then we become an idiocracy. Right. Just like he said, we become,
where does our humanity go? Right?
You know what's funny? Again, I love listening to these podcasts. In The Fighter and the Kid, the guy on the right, Brendan Schaub, a bunch of my friends went out of our way to go see him live. Big fan. He does another podcast called The King and the Sting. The two podcasts advertise for, I don't know the company name, and I'm not going to do it justice, but if you've ever watched these podcasts, I know you've seen the ad.
And what I'm talking about is Athletic Greens.
The ultimate daily all-in-one health drink, 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients. What are we doing, man? It's so tasty. Prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes. They got it all, man.
And it stood out to me recently, again, because I was preparing for this podcast, but here they are going, it hydrates you better than water. Dude, you don't even need water. Just drink this. And if you've ever watched Idiocracy, they don't know what water is.
What the hell is this? Tastes like Gatorade.
Is that Brondo stuff?
They're watering crops with a sports drink?
Brondo the Thirst Mutilator had come to replace water virtually everywhere. Water, the basic component of all life, had been deemed a threat to Brondo's profit margin. The solution came during the budget crisis of 2330, when the Brondo Corporation simply bought the FDA and the FCC, enabling them to say, do, and sell anything they wanted.
For the last time, I'm pretty sure what's killing the crops is this Brondo stuff.
But Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops?
Yes.
Water. Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Nobody drinks water. They drink this like Mountain Dew stuff. Nobody's had water in forever. Go watch Idiocracy, incredibly great movie on where we're headed. But everybody's in chairs in front of screens. But again, Adam, to your point, you compared it to video or to board games. That was kind of the initiation of it. But think about what board games are. Think about, I love mowing the lawn. You know, that's a chore. There's tons of things that we do to release our mind. You can knit, you could cook, whatever it is. The key thing here, though, Adam, is that it's supposed to be one little stepping stone in your whole day.
Right,
so when you play a game of Monopoly with the family, it's an hour. I know people make jokes about Monopoly. Maybe it's 3 hours. But it's surely not 8 hours. Right. And if I'm being honest with myself, I know that the amount of time Xbox takes from us is kind of alarming. I'm still giving it that time, but it doesn't make it any better. I was able to justify it because I'm in hell, I'm in school, and I can find 2 hours after being up reading till midnight, and then I get to talk to my friend. It was a perfect release. I get to talk to friends across the country. We get to stay interconnected. I'm talking to my friend in Hawaii, whatever it is. We get to stay. I was always making excuses, but here's a Saturday, I need to get something done. I go, you know what? I'm just going to play one quick round of Fortnite, but how does Fortnite in specific, they got you hook, line, and sinker. They've got it so your endorphins are high. It's the only game you're winning the entire game until you lose. As soon as it's over, as soon as you lose, you can start up in a new game immediately. You don't even need to go to another window. It just goes right in. Next thing you know, it's been 3-4 hours. You're like, oh my God. And again, I know my mom's listening to this podcast, so I'm using figures that are... You have spent a day on Xbox. Right. That is a problem. Right. And it feeds exactly what he's saying. We are an organic battery to this matrix digital world. Yeah. That's scary. And they're only making it more enticing and easier. Where I'm spending 2 hours watching a digital concert. Because I'm not going to be able to get a concert again. It's going to be fun. It's something different. I'm quarantined. Why not? And it's a way to slowly get us used to it.
Yeah, see celebrities are in on it. They sort of promote it. It's like a cool thing. It's a happening place, right? And so I think like our generation, I remember being like 13 when, what was it, like the Dreamcast? I think it was like Sega Dreamcast was out. So, right, like Nintendo prior to that. So we sort of grew up with this technology, but kids today, this generation, like, they're truly growing up with this kind of technology, and it's really so that's introducing, I think, an entire new norm, like a virtual concert. What sort of happened to all the sort of tiny human experiences that lead up to a concert, right? You're with your friends, you're together, you're in the car, you're sort of listening to music on the way there, right?
Oh, she has a little bag of alcohol in between her legs, or she stuck one of those mini bottles in her bra for the group, whatever it was.
It's like you remember how the sun felt that morning, right? And you're with your friends and you're there and you're dancing and you're outside and you go to order some people some drinks, and so there's these interactions that they just can't be replaced with this sort of, no matter how we feel about it or how sort of satisfied initially we may be, sort of in the short term, it's definitely long term just unhealthy, to say the least, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And again, it's a cliche for a reason, but it's said before, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is what we're marching down, right? Again, Adam's talking about the sun on your skin, the social interactions. Guys, you have a stomach biome full of bacteria and viruses, so when you eat that burger and Twinkie at the end of the evening and it comes out as a good old dump, well, it was only digested by bacteria in your belly. You have a whole environment of living creatures in your gut that digest this stuff. Well, guess what those things need? Germs. We are always touching handles that another human touch. We are always touching things, and your immune system needs that to stay strong. And on top of it, you need to be getting the sun and the fresh air. Without all of these vitamins and important nutrients that your body needs, you're becoming increasingly compromised, which is good for them. That's what they wanted, because it only gets you one step closer to COVID death, and you're one more statistic to scare people. Again, so we're going to wrap it up here. We're getting close to the end. I got one thing I pulled because, again, the COVID experience has made me mildly, as people would say, conspiracy-ish. And I want to get your thoughts on this one last thing. So, again, as we're professing, go outside, get some vitamins. I'm with this kid.
I'm just sitting there on my iPod. It's just so frustrating. I want to be in Florida getting a tan on my back.
But again, the last video I have for you, Adam, concerning the COVID instance. But again, somebody could say I'm losing my mind. I'm gonna get a little bit conspiracy. But the Simpsons have predicted a crazy amount of stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's creepy.
An interesting amount.
I want to get your thoughts on this video. It's been circulating just these past couple of days. This is from, I don't think they gave it, a 1993 Simpsons episode. Let it roll.
Good Lord, germs entering every orifice in my head.
Why, the only cure is bed rest. Anything I give you would only be a placebo.
Where did we get these placebos?
Maybe there's some in this truck.
I'm cured. I mean, ow. So it's just ironic. Here's the Simpsons. They did a episode on a virus that came from a factory in China, sent over here to the United States. Everybody's chanting for the cure. Doctor tells us there is no cure, magic vaccine, and that it's just some rest. And then what do but throw out murder bees to...
Murder bees.
Just all a little too fishy.
A little convenient, right?
Convenient.
Yeah. I think what really did me in with The Simpsons is, I don't know if you remember that one photo where it's sort of, it was like a Saudi Arabian royalty, and then you got sort of, you got Trump in the center there, and they got their hands on this globe.
Yes.
And that is incredibly coincidental, right? Like that's
they had
that's
the
something
exact
that's
picture?
like, yeah, like it sort of. That's interesting.
And furthermore, I know you've seen this clip.
I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, like too much, right? I try within reason. I try to sort of dissect everything and evaluate it in a reasonable lens, but. That's interesting. I don't know.
Dude, it's incredible. I'm sure you've seen... Have you seen... So here's a video of Trump, after he won the presidency, coming down an escalator. Yay, he won. Now here's the weirdest part. Here's a kid with a sign that drops. President Trump. It drops. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
You saw... We're going to roll this one last time. Coming through. Sign drops, waving. This is post-win, baby. And then here's from 2000. That was 2015. Here's 2000. Donald Trump waving. Little sign drop. Come on. That's no coincidence.
That's wild.
15 years before it actually happens.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Who knows?
So I mean, is there any sort of connection as to who writes The Simpsons, who owns the rights to The Simpsons, and right? I think that'd be.
So again, that's the only thing about that is it. His name is Matt Groening,
right?
And the interesting thing is, if you do any attempt to legitimize that question with an answer is written off as conspiracy nonsense, right?
Right.
It's either all of these. You could go through 23 episodes on Netflix of all of the things the Simpsons have predicted, and yet it's written off as coincidence. There's 23 episodes of coincidence.
Yeah.
But if you try to legitimize or explain it in any other way besides coincidence, conspiracy, lunatic, I mean, how do you explain that without bringing up time travel? You know, like, all of these things, no matter what, you're written off as loony if you don't accept it as coincidence.
Right, but, like, why not? Why, like, isn't that the purpose of information? To ask? Like, I don't feel like that's a provocative question. Like, okay, what's this guy's Mr. Groening, right? I guess. Well, what's his relationship with individuals who may own major media outlets or corporations that happen to fund media or that have a relationship? Right?
See, I think that's a real strong point. You make a strong point.
I mean, it's. I don't think that's un-American or sort of like. I think it's being intellectually lazy not to ask that and like to look into that, right? So
I completely agree. And further Adam's
point. Not that I'm like a wild conspiracy, but at the same time, I don't think it's a wild conspiracy to ask that.
Well, I think it comes back to your point: is why am I not even allowed to ask that question? I'm trying to, wrestle with a thought. I'm trying to grow, trying to learn. The fact that I always say there's no such thing as a wrong or a stupid question because you're trying to liberate yourself from your ignorance. So even if it is stupid, like, what's the color of the sky? And if you don't ask that question, you're never going to know the color of the sky, so you're going to keep marching just as stupid as you went into the question. So get all your stupid questions out of the way, because that way at least tomorrow you're not as dumb as you were yesterday, right?
It'd be stupid that you never asked. Right?
Boom. Bingo. I like that. That is a strong comment to end that point on. It'd be stupid for you not to ask. I think that's totally strong.
It'd be stupid for you not to ask.
Adam, I had a lot of fun. And I just threw a ton of information. What's done is with the COVID, with finals, with this being the first podcast back in the studio and wrapping up here in Harrisburg, I had a whole lot of information having to do with this, and I still didn't get to totally outline an argument, but we're scratching the surface for the beginning of journalistic malpractice. But if you wouldn't mind, I did want to end on one fun note, something aside from COVID that can lighten the mood, and we'll end on a strong note. While other people are losing their businesses and are stuck inside, and as you have insinuated, losing their sanity, we have a gentleman here who is capitalizing on this opportunity. He is starting a new business, and I think he's going to really branch out and reach some new heights. I want to introduce to you a new business that I think this gentleman is going to kill it. Here we go.
Wow. Man.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm about to break some bad news. Can you hear me? It sounds like you got a lot going on over there. I'm John from John Breaks Bad News. Okay. Your friend Bree hired me to break some bad news to you. Okay. She's pregnant with your boyfriend's baby.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, bud.
All right.
Could you leave a review on my page?
Yeah.
It's John Breaks Bad News at Facebook.com.
Okay.
All right, thank you, bud. Sorry about that. Just broke some bad news.
Thank you, John.
Sorry about that, bud.
Yeah, thank you, John.
John's out here doing God's work.
He's doing God's work. Bro. That's a service that like shouldn't be taxed, right? I mean, that's just. Yeah, I
love how the woman on the other
and God's work at the same time, dude.
I love the woman on the other end and just took it like a champ. Like, okay, can you leave a review for me? Yeah, sure. Yeah, my boyfriend's a whore. Yeah. Sure.
Glowing review. I mean, I would. Thank you, John.
But I just love, he's such a character. Like, John himself is a comedic character. Just look at him, and then on top of it, hey there, bud, I got some bad news. I'm excited, John. You're gonna break some new heights.
You're the man, John.
But ending on a funny meme, Adam. We're gonna take us out here. But here's a funny picture to articulate where we're at in the world. People in the '60s I better not say anything that the government will wiretap my house. And then here's us today talking to Alexa. Hey, wiretap, do you have a recipe for pancakes?
Yeah. While we film ourselves like asking that and put it on TikTok, right?
Yeah, TikTok. But again, Adam, it was a true pleasure. We just threw a whole bunch of information, and I'm hoping soon we'll just get you on and just talk some more bullshit.
Yeah.
And
in a less sort of end of the day tired state. But this was cool, man. I'm
because
excited
we totally exhausted ourselves playing the Matrix and Madden.
That's right. Thanks to global news media.
Yes.
Fake news.
But again, thank you, Adam Altrash. Thank you guys all for watching. This has been fun. If you enjoyed it, please share the video. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Are you seeing what we're seeing? If you agree or disagree, let us know your thoughts. We really want to get a conversation going, so bring yourself into it. Adam, don't cough on me, bro. As we end this up, again, share the video. Find us on Facebook. Like us on Twitter. Like us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Whatever. True. Do the duty. We'll see you around. Get excited for a long, fun summer full of content. We got some fun sketches coming your way soon. We've got a professional UFC fighter Alexa Kammer's going to come on here, so we've got some real legitimate guests coming on. Okay. I'm super excited. We're going to hear about his first fights and everything else. So again, we've got a whole list of guests coming on. Can't be more excited. So sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy the Rethink Tank as we're back.
Stay safe, stay informed.
And on that note,
moo.
See you guys next time. Moo!
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think that's a relevant question.
Perfect. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
news sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the